Hey guys, welcome back to Throwing Wrenches Garage. Tom here.
And Declan.
And today we are back on the IROC. There's a list. And we got to tackle a lot of stuff on this list. So this is that old dad joke of how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. This is our elephant. And today hopefully represents several small bites at that elephant so we can get through. So the big things that we're going to go through today are the things that are at the green stars, Declan. So we're going to try to, I'm going to tackle a wiring harness. I'll talk to you guys a little bit more when I'm doing that. Declan's going to clean up and maybe paint the radiator and radiator fans, right? Mm-hmm. And then we are both going to work on installing the carburetor and the headers, just to get those in. Honestly, largely so that we can just check stuff off the list. There's a bunch of other things on here, but I'll get to those later to tell you what those are and why we can't do them all today. Mm-hmm. One of those is sort of spoiler alert about the water pump. A bunch of people had comments on the water pump from the old 350, which is on here, that I cut down. It isn't going to work because that's the newer style with the serpentine belt uses a reverse water pump flow. My bad. Thanks for the catch. We're going to order that one. And put that on. Fortunately, it's not a terribly expensive thing, just going to slow us down a little bit. I'm kind of sick of taking water pumps on and putting them off, but at least since this thing's still wide open in the front, it should be a really easy job. I might have Declan help me more with that because his back is younger than mine. So, all right, let's, enough gum flapping. Let's get to work.
Okay.
All right, off. Hey, welcome to the 5th layer of hell. I'm not sure what I gotta do here. I'm half serious. I know what I need to do right now, but I'm also not 100% sure how I'm gonna do this. Here's the situation. These two harnesses, harnessy?
Think just harness.
Just harness. Okay, these two harnesses, they were to the ECM, the engine control module. Don't need them anymore because we removed the engine control module. But this piece goes to the dash. This would be important because this is the piece that's going to be giving us our information on speedometer, probably, certainly oil pressure sender, water temp, etc. So I need this. But these two come into one gigantic nightmare into this bulkhead connector. And I want to use the bulkhead connector because I don't want to have that big hole in the bulkhead where water and debris and stuff can get through. Also, importantly, all of the connectors in this engine are these like Deutsch connectors. I don't know if you guys have priced these out lately, but they're not inexpensive, and I do not want to go through buying all the specific connectors that I need. So I think what we've decided that we're going to do here is I'm going to dig into this thing. We're going to sacrifice this wiring harness, so let's just accept that right off the bat. Probably not really going to be able to use it again as its original intention. When the day comes that we replace this with a full TPI engine, it goes back to 100% stock. We'll worry about that then, probably just get a new wiring harness and start off clean. But having said that, I also don't want to completely do everything from scratch. So the hope and plan is that I can strip down as much of this as possible and just get myself to what we need and then just throw away what we don't need. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to start taking this thing apart. Sean's worked his magic on the radiator. It's looking pretty good. So that's all sprayed up. He's got it resting on the other side because all of those ports and openings are letting it rest, so it's not touching the painted side. So kind of a good solution since we couldn't hang it from anything. And you just cleaned up the fans, right?
Yeah.
We didn't really need to paint them. They seemed like they were okay.
Yeah.
And I think once we start painting those, we just start getting ourselves into a world of hurt.
There's a lot of red on the stuff from the rags.
Yeah, we can wash that off later. Not a big deal. But so those are ready. So that'll be they're ready to go back and install. So that's good. Gets us to the next spot. The next thing we're gonna do is put your headers on. So your headers are basically your exhaust pipes. So they bolt straight up to the heads of the motor where the exhaust comes out of the cylinders. And this is what begins the exhaust journey out through your car. So we've got to bolt these up so that we'll have a place to mount the exhaust to underneath the car when we get to that part. So based on when we put the engine in and sort of test fitted this, the driver's side looked like it was going to be easier to get in. So I guess we'll start driver's side. Passenger side, I think, if I remember right, we may have to remove this bracket, which is the end of the world. So let's get started. So the first thing that we've got to do here is put a gasket on. So we've got to get this gasket ready.
You think I'll need new windshield wipers?
Yeah, possibly. So the cool thing about these gaskets, see these little hooks? Mm-hmm. These are designed that we can get the headers in, so to get them started, but not tight. And these gaskets will just drop over those two outside bolts. So it makes it easy to put this in. So we'll have it ready, but we'll hold off on putting it in until we get the two outer bolts started on this. Which I think we've got one bolt here, so we need one more. You take that one. So let's see if we can get this routed without banging everything in the world up. It's like plant operation. Is it starting? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good. Here we go. So now we're going to grab 1, 2, 3 more. This one only has 2 of the hooks, the rest are holes. So now we have to drop that in and then get these others started.
Almost dropped that.
I think we're tight on all those. Did you just tape that to your hand? So you don't drop it? That's one way to do it. All right, that tied's in. All right, I don't think this was going to go in there smooth, like on any planet. If I remember this right. I got your new cap. Did you see that?
Oh, I did, yeah.
Yeah, because we cracked the old one. I got another. Well, you were part of it.
I didn't. You didn't even tell me to look for that.
Well, whatever.
Just brute force it.
Good news is I think we can get it in. Bad news is I do think we have to take this bracket off. Okay. I think what I gotta do is drop the starter. I think that's what's getting in our way. Third time's a charm. Yeah, there you go. So it's just that bolt, and then there's a much shorter one up over here.
Not gonna fall on my head and kill me.
They're long bolts, so I mean, obviously one bolt's gonna hold it in place, so take one bolt out entirely. And then for the other bolt, you'll just keep upward pressure on it while you release the other one and not keep your face directly under it. There you go.
I don't wanna like... Okay.
No, you got it. There you go.
I didn't want to push too hard and then release and then punch.
I
the
know,
car.
yeah, just ram your knuckles against the frame. Yeah. I mean, I've never done that.
No.
Whoa.
one's not as long as I thought it was gonna be.
Nope. No, it's a pretty short bolt. The other one's longer because it goes through the bigger portion of the body of the starter. Right, you are going to have to brace this one when you're here once you break that loose. No, break it loose with both hands first. It's not going to spin right off, but it's harder on the creeper too because you don't have any like purchase. There you go. Well, all the weight of the starter is on this bolt now. So, all right, this is going to be tough for me to hold, so you need to keep a hand there. Yeah. I'm like at the outer reaches of my extension here, so. Watch your fingers. All right, now let me see if I can just put the headers in, and then we can bolt the starter back up without having to drop this down again. All right, I think we can get this back in here now. Oh yeah.
Where's that hole?
All right, there it is.
Here, antifreeze. Yeah, I got on my Oh. You get started?
We're all in. All right, so the next step we're going to go through is we're going to put the carburetor on. And I think that's about all we're going to be able to accomplish for today. But it's a good start forward. So why don't you go ahead and take the tape off. We just had some painter's tape over the intake just to keep junk from falling in there while we were working on this and waiting to put it inside. But we don't want to leave that on there. It would make it significantly more difficult for the fuel and air to get into the engine. Sweet. All right. Let's make sure this is the right size here. Same size there. So what we're using is the same Demon carburetor that we were using in the previous makeup of this one. It was on the Chevelle. All right, so we want to plop this down on those bolts in that orientation.
Okay.
Yep. Lift it up a little bit to get it. There you go. So sadly, we only have two. I have two carburetor nuts. Like in everything, with all the stuff that we have, all the crap that I have saved and stored and extra crap, I have found two nuts that will work on these carburetor studs, which is pretty infuriating to me. It should be infuriating to you too.
Should.
And then we're going to have to figure out our bracketry situation. I think I've got the right bracket that's going to work. So this bracket basically needs to be able to hold these pieces, technically. This piece. And that might not be long enough. That might be a problem. That sounds like future Tom's problem.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It is.
And this Tom is just going to be like, yeah, this is good. Call it a day. We got that on. So that much is good so far. We're not going to bother putting this back on until we get the water pump changed out. It'll just give us more room for the water pump. Swap out. All right, you want to cross some stuff off the list?
Sure.
You get the honors?
So,
Wait, what did I fail?
wiring harness.
I didn't fail, I'm just not done, so just don't cross it off. I mean, you know, it's not like you get a failing mark. Ah, it's not done. The paint part is. Cross the paint part out. Yeah. And then, what else did we do? The green stars. Call the headers done, for sure. And I'd say, let's call the carb done. It's on there. We still have buttoning up to do. You can write down a new one underneath that says connect carb. Or at the bottom of the list. You don't have to squeeze it in. Sweet. All right. So still a bunch more. I feel like when we have an undercar day, we're going to get a lot done. And a lot gets crossed off this list. And that'll make us feel much, much better. All right. Cool. You feeling a little bit better? Or no? This is kind of like, it's stuff that had to be done, but it's not exactly thrilling. It doesn't really make you feel like we did a lot. So I had an epiphany. Actually, epiphany is too much. I had a no duh moment. I was thinking that what I had to do with this wiring harness was chase everything back from the firewall. But upon further investigation, and by investigation, I mean a lot of reading, I pulled open all the manuals that I have for the IROC, which is considerable, and went through the wiring diagrams. And what I found was all the wires inside the car, everything that's on the inside of the bulkhead that's attached to the ECM, that's all ECM related. I thought one of those harnesses went to the dash instruments. It doesn't. So that means I really don't need anything that was inside the car in that wiring harness. All I need is the stuff on the engine side. So instead of chasing things backwards from the largest possible amount of wires all the way down to the smallest, I realized that what I really need to do is go back from the C20. All the connections on the Camaro, they're all labeled and numbered. The one that goes onto the bulkhead, the larger of the two harnesses, is the C207. That's this guy. The other one is actually the lighting harness. I mean, there's more than lights on it, but that's what they call it. So I need to go through this and find out what I need to take off of this and what I need to keep. This is going to help me with things like the ignition, which is going to get plugged into the HEI. It's going to help me with things like the tachometer, which is also going to get plugged into the HEI. The oil pressure sensor, the water temperature sensor or coolant temperature sensor. All of those things chase back into this bulkhead connector. So I'm going to go backwards from here, and what I did was I got little green tags. I was up the other night labeling these things with what I found inside of the diagram in the manuals. So pretty important. And so now I'm going to go backwards and basically try to route out everything here. Some of these wires sort of go backwards and forwards and share connections, etc. Some of them have factory bundles where one wire gets merged into 4 other wires. That's all pretty normal stuff. I'm going to go through this and try to simplify it as much as possible, because what I'm hoping is that I'm going to get rid of a bunch of these and a bunch of this and really just get narrowed down to effectively, I think this is about a dozen wires that I actually need that are coming out of here that will all go into the connectors that I need to control things like the gauges, the washer and wiper, etc. So that's what I'm on to now. Exceedingly boring, and tedious, but this is super important. If I don't get this car wired correctly, we're never going to get it turned over. So I feel like this is one of the big roadblocks that I have, and well, it's what I'm setting off on now. All right, so I feel like we're going to take all of this stuff and just try to dump it off. And I tried to do this inside the house, and it was a nightmare. Because all of this stuff is exceedingly sticky. There's a bunch of ancient tape and a bunch of it's like weather stripping material or glue that they use to try to insulate the wires wherever there's a bare connection, like here at the bulkhead. You can see how gross that is, it's black juicy stuff. And I was getting that crap all over myself when I was trying to work on this in the house in comfort. So comfort's gone, and now we'll just work on this someplace where the mess won't matter as much. All right, all this nonsense is cleaned up now, at least. So we've gotten rid of all of this crap, this terrible wire loom. With that stuff out of the way, I can see all the wires and I can access them. So what I'm going to try to do here is kind of go back one by one through these wires, and I'm going to start with the biggies, the starter and the power wires, and trace them all the way back and find out what I need to keep, what I don't need to keep, and get these marked off. Fortunately, this purple starter wire, it's kind of easy to follow. There's not another one. That's it. Starter wire is here. Boo, boo, boo. Let's throw a label on this guy. Like so. Call that one done. This is what I need. That's the wiring harness that I need to get everything that we're going to have operating on this car operating. Right? Not too bad, honestly. It's very, very similar to what I had on the Chevelle in terms of bulk. And this is what I cut out. All of that wire loom is stuff that I don't need anymore if I'm not running that ECM. So there it is, side by side. Well, that is just about going to wrap us up for this week, for this episode. And we've already gotten more stuff done that you haven't seen in this video yet. So now is the time when I'm kind of thrashing on a bunch of different things, spending some time at night doing some stuff. Some of it we're filming, some of it we're not, but we're really cranking trying to get this thing ready, and we got a lot of irons that we're moving around in the fire. So as I sit filming this, and it's the last piece that I have to edit into this video for this week, we're sitting at Wednesday night. So I know that this weekend we are doing a bunch of work to this car. We are going to put the water pump in. I got a new air conditioner compressor because I believe I can make that work. So we're going to wire that, not wire it up. We're going to install it and get this thing much, much closer to running. So there's a bunch of things to tick off that list. I still have some wiring to work out, but the connector's in. So that C100 harness is actually attached to the firewall now. We've got our lines that we need. I'm hoping that this weekend, one of the things that we can do is start running some of those wires and start slowly adding some of the stuff that we have in the basement back into this thing. We've got a bunch of parts and pieces that we can start adding in. And while I tackle a lot of that stuff, Declan is going to be getting running on the inside of the car. That's sort of our new deal. It's going to be easier and faster for me to work through the mechanical stuff without necessarily bringing him along. And he really wants to start taking care of some of the interior. Since it has to be done before the car can drive anyway, I figure it makes sense. So this weekend's video, hopefully we're going to be shooting a lot of stuff and getting a lot of things done and getting that much closer to turning the key on this thing. The clock is ticking. As we sit right now, we are 2 days away from Declan being able to go ahead and apply for his license exam. So we're on the clock. We're running out of time to get this thing ready and roadworthy, but I'm still confident we can handle it. So until next time, guys, keep throwing wrenches. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe.